What's up, y'all? I am back. Today we are gonna review the Batman, which not just watched. I watched last night. I was thinking about reviewing it yesterday, but then just decided not to. So I'm gonna review the Batman today, and then tomorrow I'll do the Generation Hope video tomorrow. Maybe this time tomorrow. Maybe we'll see. But so the Batman. This was a movie that originally was supposed to be Ben Affleck's Batman story that was going to be within the DCU, but then we all know how that turned out, and it's very unfortunate because, like I said, he's my favorite Batman. But then Robert Pattinson got cast, and and I'll admit I was initially very skeptical, and after watching the movie, I'll say it like this: I think he was fine, but he's not. I wouldn't put him in the upper echelon with like Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, Michael Keaton. Like I wouldn't put him up there, but I think he's a solid Batman for this movie. And this will be spoilers, like all my new movie reviews will be, because I've always mentioned I don't do non-spoilers. So the Batman, I enjoyed it for the most part. It's very mixed because there's definitely things in this I do not like. It's very 50-50 because initially it was a 7, but it's kind of down to a 6.5 because there's certain decisions, like, for one, making Catwoman Falcone's daughter, I didn't like. I just, because if I'm going to be consistent, and I was saying this to somebody, like, if I said that I had that problem with Scream making, that girl Billy's daughter. If I had a problem there, I'm gonna have a problem here. And I understand it was done in the comics, but even I'm gonna say I don't like it in the comics either. I think not everybody should be, especially in stories like this. It just makes the world feel small when everyone's related. That you didn't need to do that. You could have just had it to where she wanted revenge because he killed her dad, killed her mom. That's all they had to do. But I will say there are solid performances. Colin Farrell as Penguin is easily the VIP of the movie in terms of performances. Oh my god. You don't even know it's Colin Farrell. And honestly, I would not, him in this as Penguin makes me like, I would not mind him in like a Scorsese's top style mafia film. Because he does feel like he could easily fit in that. And he was a really good Penguin, so maybe I would not mind seeing his Penguin like a more, established Penguin, but I really dug him in this movie. Pattinson, I think it was interesting that with this one, he was pretty much Batman the whole time. There's only a couple of scenes where, like, mainly there's some scenes where he's working in the cave or when he has to do the public appearance. But aside from that, he's mostly Batman in this, which is interesting, I will say. Very interesting take, but it can bring a negative too because him as Batman, I think he was just kind of there at times. But I really do dig the detective stuff. I think that's easily the best thing about the film is the detective stuff. When he's doing some of the detective stuff with Alfred at Wayne Manor, when he's working with Gordon, even though no disrespect to Jeffrey Wright, but this is, as someone who's been a Batman fan forever, he's not Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon is not black. He will never be black. Jim Gordon has always had this specific look. He's a white guy, older guy sometimes, thick mustache. That's Gordon to me. So to me, in my head watching this, I just don't look at him as Gordon. I look at him as just another police chief or lieutenant. I think he's lieutenant. I don't think he's commissioner yet. But it's like, and I think he did fine as a police officer. He's not Gordon. Sorry. Zoe Kravitz was solid as Catwoman. She's not my favorite though. Michelle Pfeiffer's still the GOAT, but I think she did a really good job. I don't like that mask. There's a couple of things I don't like. Like one line where she brings up white privileged assholes. It's like, what? When did Gotham all of a sudden only white people are rich in Gotham all of a sudden? When did that become a thing? It's cringy shit like that. I think the movie has a solid first 2 acts. Honestly, it's pretty intriguing. Even though Riddler is hot garbage, I think if I had to say like the worst thing in this movie, it's easily Riddler. It's not even Paul Dano's performance. he did fine with what he had, but that is not Riddler. This weird social media incel Riddler is it's not Riddler. I don't know what they were fucking going for, and that reveal in the end when he has all these followers, it was cringe. I'm like, what am I watching? It's unfortunate because I think the movie has a solid first two acts. Then just by the third act, I think it kind of falls. That final act really nothing really happens besides Batman and Catwoman beat up some dudes. There was like no big. They don't even really confront Riddler in the end. Like I said, it's a fine movie, but it's not a great Batman movie. And I would watch it again, and I would maybe like to see more of Pattinson to see where it goes. I will say this, though, the biggest positive too is the score. The score by Michael Giacchino that could be wrong, but that main Batman score is fucking awesome. It like every time it kicks in is really good. That Batmobile chase scene, like there's great moments, and like I said, I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think it's not a perfect one, and I don't get people who are like it's above like the Dark Knight or any of the Nolan movies. No, I wouldn't even really put it. Maybe like at best it could be above Dark Knight Rises, but maybe that's a maybe. But aside from that one, no, I don't. I don't think I'd put this movie against any other Batman film. Like obviously besides the obvious bad ones. But other than that, I like this film fine. As usual, I'm gonna cheers to kick off the review, and here we go. The movie kicks off. Mayor Dan Mitchell is watching his performance in because there's a mayor election for mayor. He's watching his like performance on which I do like. I like what Snyder did it, and when like any kind of comic book creator like has like actual news people, it does make it feel that bit more real. But he ends up getting killed by Riddler. And even Riddler's introduction, I didn't like. The weird breathing he was doing, I'm like, what is this? And a lot of people were saying you could have made this Zsasz, which I would have been for. I can buy Zsasz forming like some kind of cult. Honestly, I could believe it. Why with Riddler? I just would have rather have them just done actual Riddler. I think that's my main beef. It's like, and I get it, they were trying to be inspired by Zodiac Killer, but no. It just doesn't work. The mask doesn't work. A YouTuber I watched said that this killer reminded them of 4chan killer. They're fucking right, honestly. That's what this feels like. That's not what Riddler should be. So I'll admit, like, the riddles are good. Like, and I do like the scene when Batman shows up. This is where we get our first introduction. Before that scene, we get a scene where, it's Bruce talking and, talking about being nocturnal and basically being the Batman. And you see these robbers, not robbers, they're trying to mug this guy. And, when he's pretty much talking about, like, when the signal goes up, it instills fear, which I really like that. I think that's a solid way to open the film, and it sets the tone. Because even in the comics, the bat symbol is always just kind of like, even when Batman isn't actually there, it's there to, like, kind of, it's like a deterrent. So, like, we see a guy who's, like, graffitiing a wall, drop it. Then, like, a guy, I think there was another guy who tried to rob a guy. Who was, even, like, one of the guys who was mugging, you saw his face. And this is where we get our introduction of Batman the first time. And, we get the fight scene that we saw in, like, one of the earlier trailers, which I'll admit was really good. I think this movie, I will say, beats the Nolan Batman, just specifically Batman. I guess maybe more Pattinson is the fighting is like a nice blend, a little blend of like you get a little bit of that, more ninja like brutality like with Batfleck, but you still get like the more realistic style of Nolan, but it's done better. Because I'll admit, love the Nolan trilogy, but the week, especially rewatching it, like a year ago, I think I rewatched them. The only thing that doesn't hold up is the fighting. It just doesn't. In Dark Knight, in Batman Begins, it's fine, but like the next two films, so yeah, this fight scene was pretty cool. So the guy runs off, and then this is where we get the scene where he shows up in Don Mitchell's house, and you get like the vibe that cops are uncomfortable with him. There's a few things though as Batman does. I don't like when he just walks in a room like that. To me, Batman, you got to have that element of surprise, and this is a pet like a pet peeve slash nitpick. This could be a nitpick. It doesn't ruin the movie. This isn't like a knock on the movie, but it just Batman should maybe just there is one scene where he does have that element of surprise when he first meets Catwoman. But aside from that, there's a couple of things he just walks up like what? When did Batman just walk up like that? But anyway, we get like a scene where like when he starts doing some of the detective stuff, which I really do like that aspect. I think like that's one of the things that really carries this movie is some of the detective scenes. So, and Riddler left a message for the Batman. And then Pete Savage, who's the actual commissioner, talks down to Gordon because Batman's there and they don't like him being there. So he pretty much tells Gordon, you gotta tell Batman to leave. And Batman has like these lenses, which I really like. I like some of the tech in this movie. Like I would not mind that like in a later Batman movie, maybe more established. I like that idea of like video contacts, because I mean it makes sense. I could buy that. So then we get like a really good scene, and then you get like the song, I think Something This Way by Nirvana, which don't get me wrong, it's cool to listen to Nirvana every now and then. This scene where he looks at like Don's son, which I actually think is a really good scene because orphan to orphan. Then we get a scene where he ends up killing Riddler, kills Savage, like on video. And he's like streaming it to his followers, which I don't like this. Why did they go this route with Riddler? I don't get it. Like, I get it. We could clown Jim Carrey's Riddler, but at least he feels like the Riddler. The riddles are cool. I like the riddle parts of the movie when he's actually doing riddles. That stuff is good. The length of the movie. I am fine with long movies. Y'all know I love Snyder Cut. I love, the Lord of the Rings. The extended editions are the only versions to watch. I don't mind like Watchmen, the extended edition. I don't mind long movies. I don't think this movie needed to be almost 3 hours. I honestly think they could have kept it at a strong 2.5. I'm not saying you need to cut out like 30 minutes. It needs to only be like 2 hours. I'm not one of those people. It can be 2.5 hours even. But I just felt like you didn't need they didn't make use, or you could have trimmed some scenes down or something. But besides that, I didn't feel bored at least. I didn't feel like, okay, I'm falling asleep and stuff like that. So Savage gets killed. Then Batman and Gordon are investigating found Riddler's thumb drive. And I'll admit, the scenes where they're actually working together are really good. Even though, in my head, Jeffrey Wright's not Gordon. But those scenes still are really good. Jeffrey Wright's a good actor. This isn't like a diss on him, but it's just, Gordon to me has always been a specific person in the face. I've been too much long of a Batman fan to just be like, I can accept a Gordon with a mini afro, as a YouTube Young Rippa said. I can't unsee it now. Like, no, Gordon should not have an afro. But I think he does a good job as just like a cop with just the name Gordon. But so they discover that Riddler. It's revealed that Savage is having an affair with a woman, Annika, who works at the Iceberg Lounge. Which I like some of the Iceberg Lounge scenes, and then this is where Batman goes in there, and same thing. Why does he just walk in there? Like, I get it, nitpick. I understand. This isn't like a knock against the movie fully. This doesn't like necessarily bring points down or anything. This is it's a little pet peeve. Batman should at least have somewhat of an element of surprise all the fucking time. Even just walking up there is just weird to me. Even like a year or two Batman, it's just weird to me. But when he goes in there and starts beating some ass, is pretty cool. And I do like the lighting is great. Like when he has like that red tint on him and stuff. Like the cinematography alone, I will say if I had to say the one another big positive besides the soundtrack and the score is the cinematography. It is shot beautifully. So yeah, Batman beats up some of Penguin's goons, and then he meets with Penguin. He questions Penguin, and then this is where he meets Selena Kyle, who's in disguise. Who I'll admit, Zoe Kravitz looks really good. Questions Penguin about the murders, and he says he doesn't know. Then Bruce. So Bruce follows Selena home, and this is where we get the reveal she's Catwoman. Like the scene where he's like watching her like a ninja. Like I'll admit that scene was good. I kind of wish we got more scenes like that with Batman. And maybe I'm spoiled with other versions of Batman who always had that element of surprise that maybe just not seeing it in this one is just weird. But so yeah, then he follows her. She breaks into she breaks in I think Don Mitchell's house, and she's trying to steal some money. And this is where we get the first meeting of Batman and Catwoman, which I think is a very well done scene. Like the way he just pops up, like I think that's more what I wanted. So he then easily pretty much takes her down, pretty much. But then like people come in, then she talks about that she's trying to get money for her friend, and that she's owed money. Then she goes back to they go back to her apartment because he says Batman wants to question Annika. They arrive, she's gone, and then they go to the Iceberg Lounge where he gives her these contact lenses that are the video from earlier, which I actually really like. It looks really cool, and it's a nice little way to see. So she goes in disguise, which I think that aspect about her being Catwoman is done well. Because Catwoman in comics, multiple iterations has done that. You know, she goes kind of undercover. So this is where you meet District Attorney Gil Colson, and we get the reveal that Gotham, because Riddler's trying to do this big reveal that Gotham is holding a bunch of secrets. So she flirts with Gil, gets a little bit of information, but then one of Gil's associates mentions pretty much Annika. She follows him, and then this is where we get the reveal that she actually used to date Falcone. Or seemingly get the detail that she dated Falcone. Batman presses her about her relationship, and then she turns off communication. Then she goes home. Then Gil Colson gets abducted by Riddler. Riddler straps a bomb to his neck with a cell phone. So then the next day, then we get like in between that, get like the scenes where Alfred and Bruce are working, which I guess we could talk about. Andy Serkis as Alfred. I think he was decent. I wish we got more of him. I think we should always get maybe I'm not saying we need to get a shitload of Alfred, but we should always get like at least a decent amount of him. But what we got of him, and I think even Andy said this in interviews, he's not going for like the paternal Alfred like they usually do. His Alfred is more like just a trainer, which I don't like that. I prefer Alfred as you should be more of the mentor. You don't need to change that formula at all. But they have a solid dynamic, and I think if more obviously he got more movies, which I think they probably will, because I think this movie's going to do fine in the box office. I'll be interested to see what more he does. I don't know right now. He doesn't stack up, in my opinion, against the other Alfreds, but I think he's fine. But we need to see more of him. But those scenes where they're working together on the riddles and stuff, I really like. That aspect about the Riddler, I admit, I do like. The riddles themselves are good. It's just this is not Riddler. Especially I'm going to get more into it. So the next day, Mitchell is having a funeral, and this is where one of the few scenes where we see for at least a bit of Robert Pattinson as Bruce. I think he's fine. I don't think he's amazing or anything, but I think he's fine as Bruce. He talks to Meryl, the new mayor. I don't even remember her name. To be honest with you, I don't remember her name. Bella Real. Okay. Bella Real, who's a mayoral candidate, says like, "Oh, Bruce Wayne isn't doing enough." And what they're going for, it's kind of ironic because he's Batman. He's doing literally the most for the city. But yeah, the funeral scene I think went a bit long. Like you could have cut this down a bit. But then a car drives through and it's Gil, but he's strapped to a bomb. Coulson. Sorry, I'm just gonna call him his last name. Coulson has the bomb strapped to his neck and a phone ringing. Bruce becomes Batman. The police are barricading the door and have all this stuff set up. And then Batman shows up to try to, stop the bomb. And we get the scene where Riddler calls him and Riddler says a few riddles, which I think this is another scene that maybe it's actually probably one of the better Riddler scenes. It's not great, but it's at least like he's saying stuff like riddle me this. It's like, I just wish he had the regular look of Riddler. I just don't think they had to go this fucking gimp outfit look. But so, and Coulson refuses to answer the last question. Because it's the name of the informant, and it's they could get his family killed. So Coulson gets blown up, and then Batman kind of gets hit a little bit. So after Batman is like woken up in the police station, he has a little bit of a scuffle with the police because Batman does not trust the police. And then Gordon and Batman stage, Batman punching him in the face. And then this is where he escapes the police station, which I think the action scene itself's done really well. Like when he shoots the grapple hook and he's going up, I actually really dig that scene. And then he meets with Gordon again, and they think initially that the informant is Penguin. Because while Batman and Gordon are tracking Penguin, Selina Kyle tries to steal Penguin's money, and this is where it's revealed that Brody's drug operation, which was made such a big deal, that this was the biggest drug bust of Gotham. Which actually, side point, I mean, Gotham, I really like the aesthetic. You have that like realism element again, but it does have that like, aesthetic, not Gotham, like not fully like Burton, but you have a little bit of that character of Gotham, which the Burton films had. So you have that nice little blend. So Batman arrives to confront Penguin while Catwoman steals the money. Then we get probably one of the bat scene where he's chasing Penguin's actually really good, and like the Batman music blaring, like that main score blaring through is really good. And then Batman ends up capturing Penguin, and like I said, the cinematography, the shot where Penguin's flipping and you're seeing like his perspective, and then when he's looking outside and Batman walking up to him, ends up capturing him. And then this is where it's revealed that he's not the informant, and Penguin did not know because while Catwoman's stealing the money, she finds Annika's body. So they initially they end up following Batman and Gordon follow the trail back to an orphanage that was ran by the Waynes. Well, and we get kind of like a funny scene where Penguin's like, "Yo, I'm tied up here," and it's like stuff like that, like little bits of humor is that's how you do it. You don't overdo it. You don't do it during like an actual serious scene, and that's the biggest another thing about the Batman I really like. It's same with like the Justice Snyder cut last year. It's nice to watch a superhero film that actually takes itself seriously. You know, like I said, I have issues with this movie, and I'm definitely going to get to them when I get to them. Because it's really where the third act, in my opinion, where this movie falls. But, like, it takes itself seriously. There's not, like, a serious scene and we got to throw in, like, a shitty joke. It's a nice change of pace, considering, like, everything, especially comic book stuff, everything just has to be a joke now. So it's a nice little change of pace. So they go to the orphanage, they find some kids, and it turns out that the Riddler was an actual resident, and Batman deduces that Bruce Wayne is the next target. Does the disappearing act on Gordon, calls Alfred, and while Alfred's looking through the mail, the Bond blows up. I knew they weren't going to kill Alfred because they should never do that, in my humble opinion, unless obviously he dies of old age. That's like the only way. But I know they're not going to kill him in the first movie, so I figured out he's probably injured. So he got injured. But then, while Alfred is being hospitalized, Riddler leaks that this is actually, to me, probably where they started a little bit of the fault. The movie implicates the Waynes that Thomas, while running for mayor, had a journalist named Thomas Elliott, who we all know as Hush. Yeah, a lot of this movie copies from Long Halloween, which is nice. I like the little callbacks. But when they was investigating, because Thomas Wayne did not want it to come out that his wife, Martha, was actually had actual mental health problems. So to shut him up, he paid Falcone, who ends up killing Thomas Elliott. I did not like that they went this route with the Wayne. I don't like when they villainize the Waynes. It muddies the waters of why Bruce becomes Batman in the first place. You should never do that. That'd be like if they did something to villainize Uncle Ben for Spider-Man. You should never do that. I'm not saying you can't have it to where maybe they made a mistake. If there'd be one thing, if there was they made a bad deal or something, but no, you had Thomas Wayne pretty much set up a guy to be murdered. And I understand there's a scene later where Bruce confronts Alfred, which I don't like Gangsty Bruce. I'm going to say it. When they were saying that this was inspired by Kurt Cobain, I can see why. I love Kurt Cobain, but Bruce Wayne and Kurt Cobain should not be in the same sentence. It just doesn't, it comes off very kind of cringe. But Alfred was trying to say his parents, his dad was still a good man and that he did it for good. Even doing that, you should never make the Wayne parents look bad. That is fun. That to me always will just muddy the waters of why he becomes Batman. Because it was even even a lot of the iterations, the Wayne family is one of the few genuinely good people in Gotham, and that's what made their murder that much more tragic. When you just take that away when you just, they did shitty things, even if it was quote unquote for a good reason. So because he was saying it wasn't because he cared about, because Bruce thinks it was because Thomas only cared about becoming mayor. More it was about protecting his wife. Still, no. The Wayne never do that. So that fundamentally is kind of where I feel like the movie kind of starts to dip a bit. So, and then Bruce goes to the Iceberg Lounge as Bruce confronts Falcone, and Falcone tells him basically the truth that, yeah, this happened. And basically Bruce's parents murdered, and then there's a scene where Selena calls Bruce, and then this is where we kind of get one of the scenes we see a lot in the trailers where they're on top of the tower, and she asks him to help her take down Falcone because she wants revenge, and this is where we get the reveal that he is her father. Which why did it? Oh, it's starting to rain. Sorry, guys, but why did they do that? I didn't like it in Scream, and I don't like it here. I understand it was in the comics, but no, you didn't need to do that. You could have just left it that she wants revenge because he murdered her. He killed her mom. That's all he really had to keep it as. Having them related is just weird. I don't know, man. I don't like that. It's like that. It's very basic bitch writing. Because I actually think like the first two acts are solid. And I think if this third act needed to just take it home, and I just don't think it really did. Because like, yeah, starting here, like not starting here, but like that's part of it. You didn't need to make them related. That was very so. Basically, she wants revenge on Falcone because Annika was killed also for revealing that Falcone was the informant. Um, so Batman, she goes to the Iceberg Lounge in disguise to meet with Falcone, played by John Turturro. He might know as like the comedic guy in the Bayformers films. I actually really like him in this movie as Falcone. I